Canadian and OSCE Observer Mission to Ukraine, Part 3. This is Election Day. Our team is in Poll 1, TEC 25. TEC stands for Territorial Election Commission. Everything is running smoothly in this area. We're allowed to bring in still cameras, video cameras, and observe the proceedings. One thing we noticed that we were concerned about was the material around these voting booths. They're so thin, and combined the fact that there is a very powerful lamp sitting on the table inside the booth, you can virtually see who the person inside that particular booth is voting for. Now in this case, this election only had 2 names on the ballot. You knew basically who the first name and the second name was. If you're sitting by that booth, when a person goes in, you can see who they voted for unless they were to cover their card. But why would they? Because they wouldn't be aware that it's transparent. Here's a still image of that booth. And look at this. You can actually see very clearly that this person is voting for the second name on the ballot. This is not secure. Here's something interesting that occurred during Election Day in Ukraine, in this region. In the places where the voting was going on, there was also organized bake sales. There was also loud music playing in the background, so it added a festive flair to the whole voting process. Made it fun, you know. This is a stairway going up from the lobby up to the second floor where the voting is taking place. And again, if you are an elderly person or any kind of person who has difficulty walking, a stairway like that is a barrier to get to where you want to go. For example, where the bake sale is being held here, you could have had the voting taking place, but that's their logistic problem. This is the music I was talking about. Here's an exterior shot of Station 10. It's another school. All of the voting places that we observed were in schools. You notice that there is a stairway going up to the main entrance. There's no ramp. Therefore, if you have trouble walking, it could pose a barrier. None of the buildings that we saw in the area had any sort of ramp to allow people to get into the second floor or lobby areas of buildings. The only one that we saw was the McDonald's restaurant in downtown Dnipropetrovsk. So here we are in the voting area. The transparent boxes between myself and Aurora are the voting boxes. I point out that they are transparent, unlike boxes in other countries. So when a ballot falls into it, if you're standing around and the ballot happens to be, stuck against the transparent side, you can actually see, oh my goodness, who this person voted for. I don't know if that's the most secure or most private way of voting, but that's the way they do it there. On the table there's a small little transparent box. It's briefly shown. That is for mobile voters. Mobile voters are people who cannot make it to the election place, and the election officials bring these boxes to people so that they can vote in their home. Again, that's a transparent little box, and then if a person's voting at home and they put their ballot in there, the people who you can just look at the box and see who they voted for. That's, again, it's not a secure way of voting. Here we see people lining up to get their names checked on the voting list, and they are getting their ballots to go into the booths. These booths curtains are much thicker than the other place, and there wasn't a problem here. And everything is actually progressing quite normally here. I asked about the construction and style of these voting booths and why they are so different from one pole to the other. And I was told actually that these things are built by the many industries in the region. That's why they vary from one place to another. Here we're at polling stations 8 and 9 in Tech 25, Dnipropetrovsk. Again, we're looking at a different style of voting booth. The dimensions are the same, but they're constructed of different material. Here they have metal sides and edges, and they have much thicker curtains. Again, these things are created by the various industries in Dnipropetrovsk. Each has got a quota to produce a certain number of polling booths. and based on what kind of material that they produce, they will actually manufacture the booth based on what they actually manufacture themselves as a product. Here, Aurore Chagnot, my observer partner, is sitting there talking to election officials. The OSCE required that every time we went to a voting area that we fill out a survey and talk to the people and ask various questions and make sure everything was running okay. Here's another voting station, Station 9. And it was running smoothly. And as we get through the day, towards the end of the day, there's more people going to these stations since it's the end of work. Everything's okay. No problems. These are the forms that the OSCE gave to all the observers. We filled out the complete information on both these forms on each visit to each polling area. Such things as the number of polls given to the area, the number of electors, any gaps, any missing votes, etc. So this is me, Michael Kostiuk, at polling station 8 in Dnipropetrovsk. In this case, actually, I'm being filmed for once, and I'm being filmed by Aurore Chagnot, my team member of OSCE Team 2319, and we're called Tech 25. I'm simply just going up, looking at the boxes, and then chatting with some of the other observers and some of the representatives from the Yanukovych and Yushchenko election teams as well. This polling station had no irregularities. Everything was running smoothly. In this station, everyone was extremely friendly, and this was a pleasant visit. The curtains here also were much thicker than in the some of the other stations, and so there was no problem with anyone observing who was voting for who. Again, though, this is not on the first floor of a building; it's the second floor of a building, and that creates access problems to people who have problems walking. So, all in all, a good visit. Finish. Polling station 21, TEC 25, Dnipropetrovsk. So we're getting toward the end of our day before the polls are about to close. This is another school. And unlike the other schools, this school had its polling offices on the ground floor. This is a newer school, and it did not also have stairways going into the building. So this was one good exception where it was much easier for the average person to get into this building and vote. Like I said, it's near closing time, so the crowd now has diminished, and there's just small groups of people coming in at the end of the day now. What you see here are people just lining up to have their names checked on the voters list, and so they can get their ballots. You can see two transparent voting boxes at the end of the room and an official standing by. There's voting booths right there. And everything here seems to be running fairly smoothly. No real problems here either. End of Part 3. Part 4 deals with the observation of the vote count and some scenes in Dnipropetrovsk before we headed back to Kiev.